I'm going to introduce myself first, although you all, I think, know me. I'm Jeff Schmidl, and Faculty Senate President, and I've been here 8 years. I'm going to pass around the mic as you have questions for our candidate today. A couple of things. Be sure that you speak directly into the mic so people that are watching it stream can hear you. And if you have a follow-up question or something, be sure that you have the mic. And when I give you the mic, just for our candidate's sake, would you please introduce yourself, tell them who you are, what your position is at the college, and how long you've been here, okay? I would like to take a minute to thank Wingspan for streaming this live. There are faculty who are watching it virtually, so I'm excited about that. And now I'm going to introduce Dr. Bruce Ekstrom. And a little bit about Bruce. He is actually from Nebraska. And something I'm going to share with you, and he would probably tell you anyway, this is the only job that he has applied for because he wants to live in this area. And I think that's great. His dad grew up in Kimball, which is not very far from here. So I'm going to fill you in a little bit on his background. Dr. Ekstrom got his Associate of Science in Business Administration from Northeast Community College in Nebraska. He has his Bachelor's of Science in Business Administration and Finance from the University of Nebraska, his Master's of Science in Education from Nebraska, and his PhD in Higher Education Leadership from Nebraska as well. I read online somewhere that you have some experience with Harvard as well,
I do.
Right? Some background, some education there. A little bit about his work experience. He was a faculty member in various locations from 1990 to 2001. Then he was the Director of Assessment and Student Learning from 01 to 05 in Southeast College in Nebraska. He was the Dean of Instruction for Allegheny College in Maryland from 05 to 06. He was the Vice President of Instruction at Allegheny College as well from 06 to 08. And the interim president from 08 to 2010 at Allegheny College. So several years there at Allegheny College. And most recently, from 2010 to the present, he's the Dean of Instruction at Coastal Bend College in Texas. So before we start asking questions, I'm going to let you say anything you would like to say.
All right. Well, not much else to say. I didn't know I'd done all that stuff. So good morning. Thank you for having me here. I'm very excited to be here to explore this opportunity. It's very rare that a person that the chief academic officer can come in and join a team, but it's a new leadership team. Because people say, because some people might be sitting there and go, well, why here? Why now? Well, why here, why now is it's good timing. I'm very intrigued by the position to join a new team, a new era. When I look at that, putting together an education plan, documenting student learning assessment, putting together a program review. Those are things that excite me as a professional. And I'll tell you, the face of education continues to change, and that's a very exciting opportunity. As Mr. Moderator said, I'm a native Nebraskan, so hopefully, that's not a negative, because some people, oh, okay, we got some amens there. Because they were walking me around a little bit, and they, well, you know, sometimes it gets a little windy here. And I said, I live on the plains of Nebraska, so I'm quite used to this, and some snow and those kinds of things. So it's really a pleasure. I'm very intrigued by the position. This is the one and only I'm looking at, because sometimes you look at things and go, it just looks right, the pieces are in place. I am aware of some of the challenges, okay? Some of them said, wow, we do have a lot of challenges. That's okay, because I'll tell you, when I was met this morning and I had breakfast with the search team and I mentioned that to them, they all had smiles on. So something good is going on. Something's good going on. People said, hey, I've been here 7 years. I've been here 10 years. I've been here 34 years. That, smiles and that says a lot. So, and as a faculty advocate, if you want a little philosophically about who I am, where I've been, what I do, you should expect me, okay, your academic officer, to be a faculty advocate. You should expect me to be at that table for those tough decisions and said, hey, we need this from a faculty perspective. Here is the faculty perspective. And if that comes through me at the table in the leadership team, you should expect that. So that's philosophically who I am, what I do. You did mention I am a proud graduate. You didn't say the year, so I do appreciate that. I've got an associate degree. I'm a first-generation student. So I've lived and breathed, I think, a lot of what our students are going through today. I think they've got different circumstances, no question. Not that I'm whining. When I transferred from Northeast Community College to the University of Nebraska, and some of you may recognize this, I had to bring to the University of Nebraska, to my advisor, every textbook, every syllabus that I had from Northeast Community College. Every single one. They went through it one by one by one. Now, I hope in this day and age that that seems absurd, but that was reality back then, okay? That amazes me where we've come from. So I've lived and breathed some of those challenges. I grew up in Holdridge, Nebraska with one stoplight. My first registration at the University of Nebraska, they had a registration and said, okay, you come in on this Friday, you register for classes. I said, you know what? And I grew up on farm community. I said, I'm going to get there really early. I'm going to get there at 6 a.m. I got there, and the line went around and around the block, and that was at 6 a.m. And I said, whoa, welcome to the university. So I did that. I don't want to age myself anymore, but you remember, I won't look at anybody, but some of you might remember the days where you'd go get a punch card and go register for the classes. Don't nod your head because then you're in the middle. Oh, yeah. I went through that. I've lived and breathed. I'm very proud to be a community college graduate. That is my diploma. It's on my office wall right along next to my PhD, right along with my postdoctorate at Harvard. Okay? It is right there because it got me going. My mother and father, don't get me wrong, were unbelievable, intelligent, hardworking people. Some of the smartest people I've ever known, the most common sense. Neither one of them just had the opportunity to go to college, but they made darn sure I went there. And it made a difference in my life. So, as I live and breathe the community college way of life, in higher education, it's the only place I've ever been. Okay? I'm a product of the university, but I love the community college. So it's part of my fabric. It did make a difference in my life. So that's where I was a long time ago. That's where I've come from. And now you know a little bit about me. Is it time for questions?
It is time for questions. I have two hands up. I'll go with Rich first.
Hi, I'm Rich Laidlaw. I teach chemistry and mathematics here, and I've been here 35 years. Would you give us a couple examples of how you've acted as a strong advocate for the faculty?
I could give you a lot of examples, and I do want to repeat. In my opinion, and I'll go on record and say, you should expect the chief academic officer to be an advocate for faculty. A couple things I've done. We have started, and I'm going to go recent and not so past because, you know, kind of the here and the now. As an advocate for faculty at Coastal Bend College, we put together for the first time, okay, an award for Faculty of the Year. Everybody's going, well, that's not very scholarly, Dr. Ekstrom. But you know what? What it shows is the appreciation for a job well done. And why it was so wonderful, why I presented it to senior administration, why we presented it to the Board of Trustees is we need to recognize what we do in the classroom for our students. Can you imagine an institution that did not ever have a Faculty of the Year award voted on by peers? So the Faculty Senate put together this rubric. It was their baby. I said, let's do this You just tell me what the rubric's going to be. You do the nomination process. Okay, then we got hooked up with NISOD. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that organization out of Austin, Texas. They have a conference every year. Anyway, so for the first time ever, well, we didn't have just one faculty of the year. We had 3 this year, but they got a medallion. And what it is it is public relations. I do understand that. But what that also does, okay, it does recognize their scholarly work. It does recognize their student learning. I think that's really critical, really important. Another part that I've done as an advocate for faculty, we have an online compensation chart, okay, where in other words, this was a little different. This is, in other words, let me keep it simple. The more students there are, okay, for particular online courses, you get greater compensation. That had not happened before. So that, because of that time, because of that commitment, advocated for that. Have that in place because in challenging, if you know anything about the state of Texas, unbelievable budget challenge. And that was one that was not going to go away. So those are some examples of advocacy in the current situation. I've had some in the past, but I know there's more questions. But if you can remember, if you take this away, if there's any doubt, because philosophically, I will go on record, you should expect the instructional officer to be a faculty advocate and be at the table. And you know what? I, as an instructional officer, may disagree at times with other senior management, senior leadership. That's happened lots and lots of times in my career, but they're going to know how I feel and what's going on and what's happening, and the faculty will know what's going on at the table.
Hi, I'm Kimberly Fields. I'm an English instructor. This will be my 4th year at
Hi, Kimberly.
college. And you've talked quite a bit just now about what you view your responsibility as an academic officer. And you also seem very aware of the amount of change that we're going through right now. And one of the first responsibilities of the VP of Academic Affairs will be to hire multiple deans. And so I'm curious to know what you think are the qualities you would look for in an academic dean. And I'm going to stick a little barb in the question and say that we have multiple divisions that have either not had a dean for a year or so. Is it a year? And we have divisions that have had interim deans, which operate differently from permanent deans. So what challenges do you think face a dean coming into a division that has operated on its own for a while? And how would you help that person? So 5-prong question, academic deans, go.
Okay. Thank you. Leave it to the English people. Like, I got to put an essay together for you, cover 5 points, make a nice conclusion, and get out of here. Well, let me say I embrace that opportunity. It's really exciting to bring in, my sense of the institution. They're forming the leadership team led by the president, but also there's a leadership team in academic affairs and in instruction. So it's very intriguing, very exciting to put that team together. So what do I look for? Honesty. Number 1. And it's like, oh gosh, that doesn't sound very academic, Dr. Ekstrom. Honesty. We have to have honesty because then you earn that trust and build that trust. A team has to have, and you have to operate honestly because you have to trust one another. Because once the trust is gone, doesn't work. Okay? Transparency. That dean has to say, hey, this is how I feel. Dr. Ekstrom, you know what? I disagree with you. And here's why. Here's the data. I would want someone that can come in and say, it's okay to disagree with me. Give me the information. Give me the data. What are you basing this on? We will have the discussion with proper input. I don't want someone to say, well, whatever you say, Bruce, let's just do it. I don't like that. That bores me just saying that. Okay? honestly, that transparent dialogue. You got to get in there. Because that new dean who will go out and recruit, and go through a process similar to this, and hire, because there will be a challenge. Because sometimes if you don't have a leader, which I understand some areas don't right now, whether it's interim or not, that's not to place blame on any people. It's just the way it is, okay? So what we need to do, that new dean has to understand the situation, okay? This ship hasn't had that rudder, you know? And sometimes if you don't, it just goes that way. So there has to be, when you get in there and say, hey, we need to put this team together. I need your input. We're going to move forward, and we have to have that vision. Because lots of times with interim, lots of times, or if there's a gap in leadership, that vision goes away. Or it's like, why are we here? Why are we here? Sometimes people forget that without a leader. You know, you just, because then pretty soon you kind of get into your cocoon. You do your thing. And you know what? My experience is, and I'm not saying this because I'm talking to a bunch of faculty, my experience tells me the faculty just go out there and work really hard, take care of their students, and just do their thing every single day. So that's not the problem. The issue and the challenge is bringing it together and moving it forward as a team so that we say, hey, are we doing what's right as an institution, as a department in this class? Okay, are students learning what they're supposed to be learning? Because we have to keep moving forward, because tomorrow is another challenge, next week is another challenge. So that sometimes is the difficult part of new leadership. You have to say, okay, let's look at the culture. Where have they been? Because people need that, I need something to hang my hat on. I believe in this. Bruce, you believe in this. Let's move forward together. That's what you got to do, but it's got to be done with honesty. Starts with honesty, starts with trust. So usually when I look at surveys, when I look at people, I ask them, what do you think, what's important here? And I hope that honesty and that open dialogue come up real soon in that situation.
Hi, Dr. Ekstrom.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Thanks for coming out. Welcome, Cheyenne.
Thank you.
My name's Warren Lemrick. I've been here now 19 years. I'm in mathematics. I had a question that was kind of 2 or 3 part, but I want to begin by saying it was refreshing to hear your evaluation for honesty. I don't think we've all felt that we've had that in your position here at this college in the past. Also, you mentioned about leadership and you know, speaking out and not just rubber stamping things. I think that's something very important, and that we all look forward to hopefully bringing somebody in that can demonstrate those qualities. And my question to you has to do with leadership, and specifically it has to do with faculty and the proportion of faculty we have to the whole here at the college. In all the years I've been here, when I first got here, I think we had about 80 or so full-time faculty. And now, nearly 19 years later, I've personally watched those numbers stay stagnant. We've seen a great increase in adjunct faculty, which I think we all realize that's nationwide as well. But what's more, I think more disturbing is we've seen a number of staff and administrative positions probably nearly double. So I'd like to ask you again in multiple parts. One, are you aware of that here at this college, that we've had again this stagnation in full-time faculty positions? Number 2, how do you feel about that? Number 3, what would you do about that, if anything at all?
Okay. That's a great question. Lead it to a mathematics guy to do a trend analysis for 19 years. To be honest with you, I am aware, I think, what did you say, 104 full-time, something like that, 115, I can't remember now, okay? And what you're saying is that not too long ago it was 80, so we haven't quite zipped up the way you would expect with a increase in enrollment, okay? Hopefully this gives you a little sense. How many students do we have here? You know, you want to say we're a 5,000 student kind of community college. 6,000. Between 5 and 6? How's that? So I'm about ready to answer your question. I work at an institution right now, Coastal Bend College, working with a student enrollment 3,500, 101 full-time faculty. So you'd say, mathematically, whoa. Okay, that's a larger ratio of full-time to student than what we have here. You would agree with that, okay? What that says is, I'm a believer in the full-time faculty role. And here's why I'm a believer in the full-time faculty role. Student engagement, okay, advising, counseling, good pedagogy, collegiality. The role of the full-time faculty is critical. It is important. It is the foundation. It is the backbone. I would hope our full-time faculty then mentor, help adjuncts. Are adjuncts loved by me? Absolutely, because they play a critical role. Okay, and you would agree with that. So now the big question is, whoa, well, Dr. Ekstrom, if you believe, let's say that I do, we should have more full-time faculty, okay, to get that ratio back up. What you going to do about that? That's where, if we put together a program review system, an education plan, what it shows is we're going to put our money where our mouth is. If we're going to look at student learning, we're going to look at retention, okay? We're going to look at growth. Where does that start? It starts with faculty. Just think of the exposure that faculty have to our student each and every day. When you talk about retention, you talk about success, you talk about completion, okay? That's where it starts. The collegiality, the faculty senate, that's where it is. So when you put together a system of program review, you put together an education plan, what that shows is, with data, what I talked about before, with data, with good decision making, with information, says if we're going to allocate continuing scarce resources, well, let's put our money where our mouth is. And if it's going to go here in this instructional area, in this program, this is how we're going to grow it. And you grow it with full-time faculty. So you can show it with data, with retention, with student growth, that there is a place and a bigger place using data to make those decisions for full-time faculty. It can't be just, there's more to the story of, well, we just need more. Well, faculty are involved in everything. A full-time faculty member is engaged in the campus. They are engaged in the community. They are engaged with students. So, but I'll go back, shift a little bit, but it's the program review. It's looking at that. How do we do that? It's putting together an education plan that lays it out, that says, wow, here it is. Let's allocate our resources here. This makes sense for these reasons. Answer that? Oh.
Yeah, just real quick, Dr. Exstrom. I appreciate that. One other thing on that is I was kind of trying to make reference to the fact that we've seen staff and administration positions nearly double. And it has not been a growth that has been linear amongst the three. And I just want to know how you felt about that and what you might think if that needs to be addressed and if you would have a plan with that.
I would definitely have, I would address it. I would look at, as the faculty advocate, from instruction, from academic affairs, honestly, I have to ask the question, why did this happen? Why? I mean, which is always sometimes, you say, well, duh, Dr. Ekstrom. But my experience shows when you ask the question, why? Why? What's the reason? Because if I'm expected, as the instructional officer, to give data for decisions, here's what I think it should be allocated for. When I'm at the table, okay, why are you promoting? Why are we doing this? I hope then there is discussion amongst that leadership team for the college so that I understand the why. Because what I hear from you, and I don't want to put words in your mouth or any faculty's mouth, evidently you don't even know why. Is that fair? I don't know. I mean, okay. I don't know. Because, now let me say this. I have been in college administration for a while. I was a president for 2 years, leading an institution through a huge transition. So I've seen it from that side, that perspective, because now you do want to, I think we would all agree. Now, if they can answer, we can answer the reason why, because there could be good reasons. There could be. As an example, we do a lot of Perkins grant funding at institutions I've worked with. Okay, we've also done some other kinds of grants. We work with the coordinating board of the state of Texas. I'm working on a survey right now, okay, from the coordinating board of the state of Texas. So it's all these entities outside the institution asking you for stuff. And basically what we had to do was hire a director for these grants, okay? But the kicker is, I think what's important then, we explain, here's the reason why we have this, if you want to call it administrative position. Here's why it's necessary. We have that discussion. Once we say, let's go ahead with it, then that's where you get back to the honesty, the open dialogue. Here's why we did it. At least then you can go, oh, man, I didn't realize they had to write, I'll make this up, a 100-page report and do all this accounting for all this stuff. Wow, we do need somebody to do that. That's a legitimate reason. And you might say, I understand. That makes sense. Because sometimes communication, you got to get that word out. And it's also what happens is, you ask the question why. Okay, we've got more staff. You come back even with the reason why. Now, you may not like the reason why. You say, well, ooh, I'm not buying it. I don't like it. But at least then you'll know the reason. You may not buy it because part of my philosophical bend is clarity. It's not just communication. It's clarity. You can look at it and go, I disagree with this. I disagree with this point of view. I don't get it, but I understand. Now I've got clarity. We're moving forward. Here's why they decided it. And then you move forward. So you ask the reason why. I'm at that table asking why with, if you want to call it, I don't know, senior leadership. Well, why are we doing this? Then you have to say and explain. Here's why we're doing it. And then you're going to agree or disagree, but then you'll have clarity.
Good morning, Dr. Ekstrom.
Good morning.
My name is Juan Antonio Bernabeu. I'm the mother language instructor. I've been working here for 9 years. My question is in regard to something you're bringing up again and again, which is about program reviews. After we do our program reviews, usually we come out with things that we can improve, that we can do better, that we can explore, if you may, and so forth. In many instances, when we try to implement those things that come as a result of those program review, we're faced with a considerable amount of red tape. What will you do to make sure that faculty can work through that red tape so we can really do our job to improve our programs, number one, and make them grow?
The red tape. Well, program review is important. It is critical because what it does then, because when you say, hey, we've got these initiatives, we're going to close the loop, we're going to do this, program review will show us where to put our resources. We'll sell people on where to put our resources. How do you get out of that tangled web of, oh man, I got to fill this out, I got to do this report, now I got to do this, and all I wanted to do was change a little pedagogy, or I wanted a projection system. I mean, I'll be ridiculous, okay? That's what you should expect out of deans, your academic officer, to get you through that, because basically, I'm hired so that you can do what you do best. Students need to learn. We're going to have student learning outcomes. Go get them. Let me, let the deans, okay, with your input, get that, take care of that stuff, okay? It's no fun doing all of those things just to get something in the end. You've done your work with program review. You've provided the data. Here's what we've done. Here's our priority. Let's put our money where our mouth is. Let's go do it. Which might answer part of the question on when the new leadership teams come on board, you should expect that in those permanent positions. Let me handle all that baloney so you can go do what you do best. Because it's frustrating when you got a full load. Now you say, okay, I got this. Whew, got through this class. I'm getting this. Now it's like something else stacked on there. Because at some point that stack has to be done. Sometimes we do get stacked on with responsibilities. I got to get this data. I got to provide it. Okay. Now you've done that. Now you've given the input. Let the administration do their thing with that. Make sure that that comes out the way it's supposed to. Let them, let us, let me deal with that. Or come into my office. Say, hey, Dr. Ekstrom, what is this baloney? I've given you the data. Here's the stuff. Come on, go do it. I'm a faculty member. I want to teach. Man, let me teach. And that's kind of our cry, is it not? I've been there in front of students, you know, full loads. I understand. Let us do what we do best. It's about the learning, okay? So, and it's awfully, you know, that's what you should expect. Okay, let me do the things, you know. It's kind of an old adage, you know, let administrators do all those things so that you can do the really important things. There's some truth to that. There is some truth to that. You ever wondered, oh, I shouldn't get, you know, what the heck does Dr. Ekstrom do all day sitting in that doggone office behind a desk? I don't know. Go give me something to do. There is some truth. There is some truth to let us do what we do best. Okay?
Good morning. I'm Jerry Grego. I'm a faculty member in accounting and management.
Oh.
Oh.
May your debits always equal your credits. Go forth.
Yeah. Well, I have a follow-up question on the grants scenario that you put together for us. At the end of the grant cycle, the money has run out, and you have this person or persons that have been hired. What happens then? What criteria would you use in order to determine whether or not that person or person stays on at the college, or what happens next?
Here's the criteria. Is the position necessary? That's it. Is it necessary? Everybody's like, wow, you know, we're trying to hire this academic officer, and that's what he is, isn't it? But honestly, in its simplest form, what I ask is the position. Now, Jerry, you can be a wonderful person. Trent can be a wonderful person. I love people. You have to look at that position. You look at the position. Is it necessary to sustain what we're doing? Okay. It's not such, now, I'm not trying to make that easy, because sometimes it's really hard when people come into a grant-funded, some people call it soft money position. Now, I want to say, I do want to back up. When I hire grant-funded positions, it has to be perfectly crystal clear. This is for 5 years. This is grant-funded. This is a wonderful project. At the end of that 5 years, this grant is finished, which means the position is finished. You have to be upfront and honest with the persons involved and say, this position is not part of the college budget. It could be, but then you get to that time, then you ask the question, well, is it necessary? Does it improve student learning? Do we have the funding? There could be a discussion that says, maybe we need to bring that person in to the college budget. But you ask the question, is the position necessary? Is it doing our students any good?
If the person that was hired on the grant money did not go through the same criteria that a faculty member would have to go through for hiring, and at the end of the grant you have determined that the position is important, but the grant is over, how would you make that transition? Is it going to be automatically that person, or do you have to, or should you open it up for hiring so that the person has to go through the same credentialing, basically, that other faculty have had to go through?
My personal and professional opinion, you open it up. Because then everybody's on the level playing field, because then it's a position, whatever that credential is, master's prepared, bachelor's prepared, experience in this. You open it up. You do the search. That's open, isn't it? Isn't that fair? It's like, well, I don't really like it, but it's fair. That's clear. And I can tell you right now, I'm going through a situation where we had an, this is a little bit confidential, but don't worry, I won't give away any names, but it's an internal posting for a position. The thought was, well, you just kind of move this person from here to there. No, we're going to do a search. We're doing, when I get back, an internal search. We put together and posted the job description. That's fair. We want to get the best people. Okay? I'm going through a search right now. I'm throwing out my credentials, my experience. I'm having a discussion. I'm going through an interview. I don't know, maybe I would have loved to got a call from you this week. Say, hey, Bruce, you're hired. Don't even worry about coming. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Oh, thank you. But wouldn't you kind of go, how'd that happen? You know? So to me, my personal opinion, that's fair. It's equitable. I'll be disappointed if I'm not selected, but that's the way search teams, that's the way the selection process should work. We're all out there. And then what it does, it gets back to, we had the process, put the process into action. Here's the result. At least we're clear. Some of you might be sitting there right now going, ooh, I don't like his philosophy on this. I don't like his answer. I acknowledge that. But you do know my stance. You do know this is what he believes. I think I'm being as clear as I can be. And then you can move out, and as we end this forum today, and I'll be gone after tomorrow, you'll know when you walk away, I considered his ideas. I know exactly where he stands. I'm clear. I'm not totally on board, but I know. He was open. He was honest. Might have cost him his job. I'm not going to select him because I don't like his opinion, but that's the risk you take in an interview. I don't come here thinking, okay, I wonder what they want me to say. Oh my gosh, I not that smart. To remember what I said, what do they want me to say? I can't operate that way. I don't operate that as a professional. I don't operate that way as a husband. I don't operate that way as a dad. I mean, this is who I am. This is what I believe, and it's okay to disagree.
Let me try. I'm sorry. I'm Rosalind Shalisky, and I teach journalism.
I know you.
37 years. Okay. Here's a scenario for you. The Literary Arts magazine has published. They have published a poem that was selected by the student staff, and it's got some four-letter words in it and maybe some sexual stuff. Okay, and one of the sponsors, business sponsors, of the upcoming Literary Connection, where we bring in published authors to do a day-long workshop, they're gone to the president and they have threatened to withdraw funding. And the president calls you in, and what are you going to do?
Well, I don't know what the policy is. If you follow the process, okay, if there is a policy, there should be a process. I assume there was a vetting process, a reading team, a review team that says, hey, we're selecting this, made up of advisors, faculty, students. You followed the process. There is no violation of a code of conduct. Here it is. This is what we've done. This is student work. It was vetted. It was not meant to be harassing. It was not meant to be violent. There is no threat. Okay? I, as an advisor, as a faculty member, I stand by this. You bring that to me, I'll say, did you go through the process? Did you follow the process? Was it vetted? Do you support this? Is there any kind of hidden agenda here that you missed, that you might be aware of? Nope, I support it, Bruce. Hand it to me. Okay? I'm supporting this from an academic, scholarly point of view, Mr. or Ms. President. There it is. If you say, oh, I'm going to bat, but you'll know if I'm going to bat for you. Here's what's not going to happen. Okay, Bruce, we did this, we vetted it, we had our advisors, we went through the committee, I support this, and I look at you and I'll say, all right, I'm going to bring this to the president, okay? I promise you, I'm not going to go in there and say, you know, Mr. President, here it is. I'm not sure. There's some kind of bad words in there. I'm going to tell you, when I tell you I'm going in and I'm going to support the publication, you'll know that I'm going to go in to the office and say, I support this publication. Here's why. You'll know. Now, so you can bet, okay? Now, I might come back out and say, okay, there was a decision and it was not what we wanted. It's not going to be published. I would come back to you and say, here's how it came down. Okay? And here's the reason why. Okay? Now, you and me may not like those reasons, but I'll say, Mr. President, why? I disagree. Tell me. Okay? And you know this, President trumps Vice President. I mean, I ain't stupid. But I'm going to go in and say, I'm supporting this, and there's just back and forth. There could be various people. But the president will know also. When I have a discussion with him, okay, and let's say the decision doesn't go our way, okay, he's going to know. Now, I'm not going to walk out his door and go, oh my gosh, this is the stupidest thing I've ever, I don't know what he was thinking. I won't do that either. I'm going to say, because I work for the president, I will support that decision because I'll come out that door and visit you and say, here's how the decision came down. Here's why. Here's what it is. Okay? This is it. But you'll know the reason why. You'll know that I went to bat for you and maybe didn't go our way. But then you'll know the decision. We'll get back to clarity because sometimes that's the way it goes. And we still might say, well, I still don't like that decision. And then you and I could proceed and say, well, is it worth pursuing in another avenue or is it not? Because on the other hand, I'm going to support I'm going to bat for you, but when it comes the other way, I also I'm not going to walk out the president's office and start to badmouth that decision because I'll say, there was discussion, this is the reasons why, but then you'll know that. You'll communicate that to the students. Let's say we said, yeah, you know what, I understand the situation. I don't like it, but I know I've got some clarity. Now I'll go back, okay? Unless you say, well, no, this ain't over yet. Does that answer your question? Because there are some things, but you'll know when I'm going to bat for you. Now, on the other hand, I might have said, you know what, I don't support this, and here's why. Then it'll stop right there. I won't bring it to the president. And you might say, well, I don't like your reason, Dr. Ekstrom. Well, here's why. I'm pretend. It wasn't vetted. You didn't even read, I'll be ridiculous. I'm not saying this has ever happened. You didn't read it. You didn't even, it could be, I didn't even know that word was what it meant. You know what I'm saying? I mean, those things happen. But you'll know how I feel, and you'll know if I'm going in to support or I'm going to tell you no. And then we have clarity.
Hi, I'm Cindy Henning, going on my third year here at Laramie County, and I am the Exercise Science Program Director, and I teach in the Exercise Science Department. And my question is, you've mentioned a little bit about the senior leadership team. How do you see your role in relationship to our new Vice President of Student Services? And how do you work with that individual to continue to move our college forward?
Closely interrelated as part of the team. I would expect her, when we have discussions, to work closely with academics. We work closely with student services. We're an institution. We are an organization. We are a team. One decision is not divorced from the other. In other words, my expectation of a leadership team is sharing of information, because it's kind of amazing how we can make decisions in academics and it affects student services in some way, and we might not even know, might not even think about it, okay? That happens. Okay, because sometimes I'll make decisions and I'll think, and you kind of get in that little silo, well, okay, we made this decision, this affects faculty, period. Well, there's very few decisions that just affect faculty or one group of people. So that, what I'm saying is that team needs to interact, trust one another, be honest with one another. If I'm selected and I'm on that leadership team, there'll come a day when I'll have a disagreement with the Vice President of Student Services. It'll happen. Not that I'm irritable. I think I'm a nice guy. But she'll know exactly how I feel, where we're coming from in academics. And she goes, well, I don't get that. It doesn't make, we'll have that discussion. That has to occur. We don't make decisions in isolation, okay? I would expect her to be an advocate for student services. You should expect me to be an advocate for academics. That doesn't mean adversarial. That doesn't mean you do this. It just means I'm an advocate. We have discussion. Have you ever had a disagreement with somebody? My goodness, yes. And you know what? That's okay. And then you come out with that decision, and then there'll be clarity. Because then I can give the situations. You know what? Here's what we're going to do for this budget year. We're going to hire, and I'm not drawing any battle lines here. We're going to hire 10 new people in student services, okay? And we're going to not hire any new faculty, okay? But now that decision could come out of that management team, out of that budget, out of discussion, but I'm accountable to you then to say, here it is. Here's how it went down. Here was the discussion. Here's what we did. And you go, man. Now you might, Bruce, what were you doing? Did you fall asleep? Didn't attend the meeting? What happened? I'm accountable to you for that. I am, okay? But we have to have those discussions. It is an institution. It is an organization. It's a bunch of people. People are the most important thing of this college. That's my opinion. Now, if you disagree, I'm okay with that, but sometimes I have to go on record during these forums and during my short time here. You're going to know when you leave, it's like, man, he said that, he believes that. Do I believe people are the most important asset of this college? Yes. Okay? I have to work with people every single day, including I have to work with the president, fellow vice president. Those are important. Those are people. So but I'm accountable to you, and you for those decisions, and you'll get clarity. But it has to work together. I can't work in a silo. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. We got to all move forward together because we don't need any hangover of, oh man, I don't like this decision. Bruce, why don't you work with those people? You'll know I'm in there working with them together. I'm accountable for that. Absolutely. You're not going to make me do a yoga move, are you? Your colleague did. I did a downward dog for her. I'm like, I pulled my hamstring. Yeah, I blew it out about 6 weeks ago, so I have a daughter that's a physical therapist. So I said, hey, I paid all your tuition. I need some treatment here, girl. It was black and blue from all the way up. I don't know. No, it was a freebie. It was a freebie. It was off the clock. I did the, this is really off, I did the insanity workout. Have you ever seen that? Interesting. I pulled my hamstring, but I made it. I've done it. I've been through max and everything.
trying to pick. I have like 5 questions.
You already had a 5-part question.
I know. It's how I roll. We've heard a lot about your philosophy of leadership,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd really love to hear you talk about your philosophy of instruction. And I'm going to alienate everybody for a moment and get really specific. When you were at Harvard, did you work with David Rose or Tom Hare?
Nope.
Okay. All right.
The names don't ring a bell.
Okay. Never mind.
Go ahead.
I'll skip that question then.
Oh, that's okay.
I spent a week at Harvard this summer, and so I was just curious about your thoughts. But,
Well, can I?
Yeah.
I shouldn't do this. I'm going to interrupt this. I spent 3.5 weeks at Harvard in a summer institute on academic leadership. That's what it was. They locked me into a dorm room. And they wouldn't even let my wife and kids visit. They said, we don't recommend that. I'm like, are you crazy? Came out with a paper after that. So it was like intense like I've never seen. So anyway, that was the program I went through.
Okay, I did a summer institute that was 5 days, so it wasn't nearly that intense. But we'll just skip that all together.
Okay.
Because you didn't work with them.
It was Harvard.
But let me ask this then. We have online, hybrid, and traditional courses on this campus. How do you feel that all of those different types of courses should be assessed? And I mean in terms of instructional effectiveness. How do you think instruction should be assessed, and what sort of accountability do you think should be in place with regards to that assessment?
Measure learning outcomes. That's what it's all about. So do I believe if you're teaching an online course, I'm teaching face-to-face, y'all are facing a hybrid, same class, Yoga 101. Every one of those students in your class, and my class should have the same learning outcomes. That's where it comes from. Isn't it all about student learning? Which kind of, that's the full circle. It's about student learning. That's the accountability. Do I think it's a good idea to document, to measure student learning outcomes? Yes. Now, I think North Central, the Higher Learning Commission, is going to say, do it, whether you like it or not. Would you agree with that? Do I think it's a good idea? Yes, because for a long time, we have said, just trust us. We know what we're doing. We've said that too. Now, do we know what we're doing? Yes. Do we know exactly what those student learning outcomes? Yes. Do the constituencies, do all the citizens, do moms and dads, do they always know? No. So I think we're in the age of accountability from government, moms and dads, from students. Like it or not, the hand we've been dealt. Now, do we have one heck of a story to say? Oh my gosh, yes. Aren't you proud of your students? The learning outcomes? Who wouldn't want to go, wow, here's what they do. How do you know, you've heard this question probably, how do you know that students are learning what you say they're learning? The days of saying, well, we just know. Those days are over. Those days are over. And it's okay. We'll document it. It might take a little time. Like, well, how do you write this outcome? What does this mean? Let's come up with a process. So are we accountable to everybody that says, how do you know that they're learning what you say they're learning? Okay? That's the accountability. That's the documentation of student learning outcomes. Do I think your syllabus, and I don't want to be misunderstood here, your syllabus, the learning outcomes on your syllabus, you're going to teach it online. I'm going to be totally face-to-face. You got a hybrid. Would you agree that the learning outcomes should be the same? I will. I will go on record and say those learning outcomes should be the same. I'd even go so far if you teach chemistry in Cheyenne and you're teaching the same chemistry course in Lincoln, Nebraska, shouldn't the learning outcomes be like really similar? I would submit to you, yes. That's the accountability. That's the measuring of student learning outcomes. Do we post them? Do we put them out there? Yeah. Do we have a system and a process to document student learning outcomes? Yes. As an institution. Now, when I'm talking about the assessment process, the assessment plan, you're not going to list 144 different things you'll learn. Okay, that's for the course. That's for that department. As an institution, you take those big ones. Okay, So that's what I believe. That's the accountability. Now, might you have a different timeline? Because I run into this sometimes, because when I say syllabus, what does that mean? I'm talking learning outcomes, the name of the text. What's this course about? I'm not talking about, on day one, I'm going to introduce this and use this. That's not what I'm talking about, because your dateline and schedule could look a lot different than mine. When we get to the end, no matter what kind of delivery, how you did it, our student learning outcomes should be the same. Okay? In other words, now, you might have 10 students that completely got it. I might have had 8 out of 10. Well, then I'll look at how I can improve that. Okay?
I'm going to take you back to Jerry's question. I'm getting there. Thank you.
A voice from the side.
That's Dave. Meredith Rares. I teach anatomy and physiology, and I'm starting my 3rd year. Going back to Jerry's question about having an open and fair playing field, opening positions up when they come available so that we get the best person in for the job. What do you do with people who have been grandfathered into their position by past administration? What do you do when it becomes clear that they are not maybe the person for the job? How do you get them to where they need to be so that they are fulfilling their job as they need to? And then I'm going to throw in one more thing with this: conflict between members of the university.
Well, I think
how do you deal with it?
There's a little. First of all, a couple perspectives. You use the term, they're grandfathered in. Professionally, personally, I'm not going to come in. I don't think this is fair, nor do I think it's right. You know what? You were grandfathered in on that position. You're gone, and I'm opening this up. That's not me. That's not treating people with respect or dignity. So, and I'm not saying you were asking. I just want to make sure that when you leave here, it's like, well, he likes his open search things, and man, these people that have been grandfathered in. No, we treat people with respect. Okay, now that's done. They're in doing the job. Because then I think it's a different kind of question. Whether you're grandfathered in, you've been here for 35 years, you've been here for 35 days. We should have an evaluation process of those job duties. Everybody. I would expect, as a chief academic officer, I will be evaluated. There's an evaluation instrument. There is a process. Every position should have an evaluation process, okay, with that appropriate supervisor, with that appropriate team, okay? So I think that's a little bit, whatever position you're in, how you got it, there should be an evaluation. Now, if that evaluation and that process leading up to that evaluation shows that there's some deficiencies, or there's a total ineptness, the job's not getting done, then that evaluation should reflect that, and there should be action taken. That could be corrective action, an improvement plan, something like that. But can I, since we're talking sometimes philosophical, so that when you leave here, I believe long before you get to the evaluation, that day you're sitting there with a supervisor, long before that, there should be communication between that supervisor and that employee that says, ooh, here's what you need to do. You need to improve this. This doesn't look quite right. And there should be dialogue all along the way. Let's say you do an annual evaluation, one every 12 months. There should be conversation going on from day one, end of month one, all along the way, because in my opinion, by the time you get to evaluation time, there should be absolutely no surprises on that evaluation. We owe that to people. In other words, here's what I would expect. Let's pretend I'm selected here, and I'm your new Vice President of Academic Affairs, okay? And we're cruising along, and I get to the 12th month. The president sits down with me and says, you know what, Dr. Ekstrom? Wow, just looks horrible, okay? I'm not going to renew your contract. And I would be stunned, Now, there might be a reason for that, but I should have all that information along this trail, along this 12 months that says, you know, Bruce, you need to improve this. Oh, you should have done this. And then we have that conversation. The evaluation is just the end. It's a documentation. There should be conversation and many evaluations and improvement plans. We owe that to people. You know, gee, Bruce, you know, you just didn't do this. You don't really understand, you know, the molecular structure of this. I didn't know that was in my job description. You know what I'm saying? I shouldn't, nor any one of you, be surprised at that evaluation. If you look at yourself honestly in the mirror and say, yeah, I knew that was coming. So that's a long-winded answer to say, the grandfathering, people are here. We have to treat them with respect. We have to trust one another. And then the other part of that is there should be an evaluation and an improvement process for each and every one of us. I get evaluated. President gets evaluated. We all got someone evaluating us.
Can you address conflict between employees?
In other words, well, to me, conflict will happen. But I think it's going to be less because if we implement and complete and follow the process, you say, well, and you have to be honest, and I'm sure there's some history as I pick up on this, but it has to be an honest evaluation. And I'm not saying this would happen. You know, this supervisor says, okay, I don't like the way you got your job. I'm going to get you out of that job. That's the wrong attitude. That ain't right. You evaluate on performance, job duties, skill, which reduces that conflict. Okay? Because I'm not going to come in and say, okay, you're gone, you're gone. I'm going to say, okay, we have to have a process of evaluation and improvement of each and every one of our employees. Okay? Who can say, well, I don't like the way you did that? Well, remember this, philosophically, right up front, here's what we're going to do. We're going to evaluate. We're going to do this. Do I disregard how you got your job 34 years ago? 35? Gee, didn't you tell me 34? Who else is 30? Someone else is 34. 37? 30, okay. I mean, I think it matters. There's some history there, but it's like, here we are. We're a group. We're people. People are the most important asset of an institution. Let's move forward with the process.
I'm going to ask you a couple of questions that came off the internet. I have several, but I'll pick a short one and one that's maybe a little longer. First is, what is your experience with Phi Theta Kappa?
PTK. Every community college I've ever been in has had a PTK chapter, ranging from 1-star to 5-star, and everywhere in between. I think that is a very engaging chapter and can be with proper advisors, with student engagement, with good officers. I think it lends a real nice piece for our students. I think it's really nice from 1-star to 2-star to 3-star or whatever those goals are, wherever you land on those years. Okay? PTK, good organization. I fully endorse, fully support.
Okay. As an advisor, I'll tell you we're a 5-star chapter. So.
Oh, well, I was going to ask. Congratulations, by the way.
And second question, what are your thoughts about offering remedial courses in an online format?
Oh, man, that's a tough one. That is tough. I hesitate because those students, there's probably a reason they need some developmental work, and it is a super duper quadruple challenge online with students with developmental needs. It has to be so expertly designed, and there has to be an incredible amount of student engagement. I think, and I have to be honest, and I'm a faculty member, I've developed online courses. I've never done it for a developmental course. I have not. But I think the work, the time involved, would about wear you out. I hesitate, but I could be sold if it's a super duper course. There's a reason that these students need a developmental course.
Rich Laidlaw here again. You know, in the past, we've evaluated our dean, we've evaluated the vice president of instruction, but these evaluations seem to go into a black hole. Do you favor making these evaluations public, or at least giving information back to the faculty and pointing out the deficiencies and the remedial steps that these persons might take?
I would support a report back to faculty on the results and some of the suggestions. I would not support full disclosure on something like, you know what, Dr. Ekstrom just doesn't understand this, he's pathetic in this. I mean, and some people would use graphic language like, man, he's just rotten to the core. I would not like those terms to go internally public. I'm okay with saying, we see the chief academic officer as maybe he needs to improve this. 64% of the faculty believe he can do this a little better, okay, in summary form. And then on the other hand, I would not want your evaluation, all the specifics, to go public either. So I'm speaking from the same voice, but I am open. You know, if I'm going to put my money where my mouth is, if I'm going to say, hey, honesty, full disclosure, open dialogue, you have to know, hey, we did this evaluation, and the worst thing is, have you ever done this? You know, we did this evaluation, and the sentence stops, and it's like, and you go, okay, but at least let's do that. But it has to be a process, and it has to be up front. Say, hey, here's what we're going to do. We'd like to provide some suggestions to the new academic officer. We want to do it as an evaluation instrument. Here's the participation rate, and here's some things that we see could improve. Honestly, I wouldn't want that published to the world, but internally, as this team looks at it, yeah. Because as you know, when you publish things to the world, they read things into it, and that gets, and one thing leads to the next, leads to the next. Because you know how it works. The survey could come out, you know, Dr. Ekstrom is the best thing I've ever witnessed in an academic officer. By the time it gets to a blog, okay, it's Dr. Ekstrom is the worst academic. You know what I'm saying? Oh, yeah, I heard this, and this instructor said. So I'm trying to prevent that. I want open and honest results and a summary of that information. I'm okay with that.
Hi, Dave Markham, Government Studies, and I'm starting my 24th year here at LCCC. Kimberly and Meredith have inspired me to ask you a multi-pronged question.
Oh, no.
We've kind of teased around with a lot of this already. We've talked about hiring faculty on campus. And we do this dance on campus where every year the deans will generate a list of faculty positions that they would like to either have filled or create on campus. It is then taken to LLT, and in this kind of magical process, decisions are made as to who is actually going to be hired, who's going to get the new faculty, who aren't going to get the new faculty. And the way the process has been described to me is the fairness doctrine. Last year, this division got 2 new faculty members, so it can't have any new faculty members this year because we want all the deans to be managing the same number of people on campus. And then when those decisions are carried forward, say, to President's cabinet, the same kind of process occurs because we can't have any more faculty members on campus than we have staff hires and things like that. So my first question to you is, well, first of all, do you have a comment on that? And what would be your references when you are asked to make those kinds of decisions, given that everybody's making the argument that these are necessary positions? Okay. These are all necessary positions, and we all need them. And then my second question, which is kind of related, has to do with student retention. LCCC has pretty bad retention rates. We all know that retention is a problem nationwide, so I'm assuming that you've encountered the issue in some of your other positions. How have you responded to that problem?
Okay, fairness doctrine. And I don't know if that's just a loose term. That makes absolutely.
That's a Dave term.
That's a
no, that came out of a...
Okay, well, the way Dave framed the fairness doctrine makes no sense to me. No, I understand what you said. I'll say I disagree with the way you framed the fairness doctrine. I would never have the guts to walk into my president's office and say, you know what? Last year Dave got 2 faculty, all right? This year, it's Mary's turn. Okay, now, I have to support my recommendations with data, with information, okay? And that just flies in the face of what I believe. It should be, could it happen, I'll go on record, could it happen that this year you got 2 new full-time faculty? You got none. Last year, you got 2 new faculty, you got none. 3 years ago, you got 2 new faculty, you got none. Doesn't seem very fair according to your fairness doctrine, but according to program review, if we're going to put our money where our mouth is, there has to be some logic behind it. Here's what we did. But remember, that's going to be communicated. You're going to go, I don't like it. Okay, but it's going to be clear on why we did this. And it'll be clear up front. When I go to the president's office, you'll know exactly the recommendation going in. I'm not going to snow you and say, you know what? I'm going in for 2 new faculty here in this area. And if I could just sneak a couple in for you, I'm going to try to do it. You'll know, I'll say, here's what I'm bringing in to put this budget together. Here it is. And to be honest with you, Dave, this year I'm not going to recommend those new faculty in your department. You'll know that going in. Okay? It'll be clear. Now but it's going to be based on objective data, why we're doing it, from program review, those kinds of things, so that we have the proper information. Okay? That to me is fair. That to me is wise. Okay? I have to be fiscally responsible. I'm the budget officer. I'm the budget officer for academics. I take that very seriously. We got so much money, I have to do it right. Now, I hope you'll notice I'm doing this after listening, after talk, after digestion, as we move this process along to a final budget and final recommendation. Okay? That has to occur. So, as you frame the fairness doctrine, it just seems a little odd. And I understand. The team will get together and other parts of the organization are going to come with their stuff. But we'll see how the facts come out. Because as an institution of higher learning, we've got a good chip to play. We're all about student learning, are we not? I hope so. What do faculty do? Aren't we all about student learning? We got a real good chip to play there as far as growth, enrollment growth, advising, retention. Okay? And in the retention, faculty are on the front lines. Retention, it's all about, in my opinion, and sometimes I try to clarify, and I don't mean to oversimplify, but it's student engagement. Student engagement. Student engagement for retention. Okay? Students are there in front of you. My hope is every faculty member is engaged in the classroom, out of the classroom, during office hours, via email. I don't know, some of you might even do virtual tutorials, virtual classrooms. Do I think they work? Yes. It ain't a gimmick. I've seen the results. I've seen the results because we're all busy. So retention, the key is right here. Right here. I'm standing in front of the key to student retention, student engagement.
I think one of the first opportunities you might have to work closely with the new Vice President of Student Services is on creating a new advising model.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to know, in that creation, what would your perfect advising model look like?
The perfect advising model, here's the way I see it. I think I can summarize this. Student walks in to our campus, goes to admissions, I'm talking fresh. You're talking Bruce Ekstrom out of Holders, Nebraska. Oh, I need to go to college. Okay, and I'm not making light of this. Some students are like, whoa. I would hope that that initial intake, we've got some counselors, advisors that really know, I need to do some counseling. I got to get you in a path. I got to get you registered for classes. There's a lot to do before you register for those classes. This is what college is all about. This is what you do. Here's the paperwork. Okay, this is my simplified, perfect model. We got this person. We got him, we got her registered in the proper classes, the proper curriculum. We've matched up their interests. We've put their financial aid together. I would hope then, I want to be the next great chemist. Okay? Well, all right. I want to get a PhD in chemistry. I'm going to start here. You know, I'm ready to roll. My ACT scores are off the charts. I'm in the right place. I would hope then the perfect advising model, well, we got the advisor for you, okay? Here is his contact information. Here's where his office is. You know what? He might even be down there right now. Okay? Here's our new student. But there has to be communication here because I would hope if there's someone that wants to be the next great chemist in this country and wants to be a PhD and discover something, they sure as heck better be talking to someone like him off the bat. And I would hope that you are advising that student to finish out his or her career at the college. So that's my 2-minute version of the perfect process. Do I want faculty engaged in advising? Yes, I think the faculty model should exist. I want that student to go to you. I'm interested in physical therapy, this exercise science. I would hope really soon in their career they're going that way to you. Did I answer your question? That's the advising model I like. Now there's a lot of logistics as far as communication, because you know what? There's nothing worse. You know, I got this person, they left the college, they're going to physical therapy school, and you go, I never even had her in class. You know, it's not a perfect, you know, those things happen. But you should be going to those faculty people after that input. Because you know what? I've been a faculty advisor. If anybody asks me about financial aid, my answer is, I don't know. Because the rules, the law, I mean, it's just boggles me. I don't even want to spend my time, my hours, and I don't want to pull out my hair, but I know I can work with people in financial aid to get them to me. Now, I can talk to you about business. That's my baby. Oh, you want to be a college administrator? Yeah, come talk to me. I'll get you in the right classes, okay?
I'm going to ask you a question that come via email. What are your thoughts about faculty development?
Necessary, probably should be mandatory. There is so much going on. And when I say that, then am I obligating the institution to provide resources for that development? In other words, if I'm going to say, okay, I'll be ridiculous. Dr. Exstrom just sent down an edict. We all have to learn Camtasia and put a video clip in our classes. I'm pretending. And 90% of the faculty, Okay, he went crazy, but here's an edict. But even in my craziness, I have to obligate resources from the institution to provide that. I can't tell you, well, you know what? Here's the requirement. Get it done in the next 6 months. You're on your own. Well, it's going to cost me $395 to attend the webinar. Good luck. I think that's just a bad way to treat people. Do I believe in faculty development, continuing faculty development? Yes. Do I believe then that the institution then has to bring in some resources and utilize resources for the faculty development? We had breakfast this morning. I think somebody asked me the question, well, what about this faculty development? At Coastal Bend College, we have a required, mandatory, professional leadership development. Now the kicker is, it's for everybody. Every employee has that requirement, 12 hours. So then so that's even, boy, it's almost the fairness doctrine, but then the institution and I then am responsible to provide some opportunities for people to get those hours of continuing development. So yes, it has to be. We're an institution of higher learning. If we ain't learning, if we don't take it seriously, I don't know if we can expect our students or the community or the board to take us seriously.
I'm going to make mine very clear, direct. Again, I'm Juan Antonio Bernabeu, Mother Languages. You talk about face-to-face, online, hybrid. You talk about the learning outcomes as well as the quality of the teaching we're providing and assessment. So my question is this: do the people that are involved in concurrent enrollment, this is the people that are granting credit from LCCC at the high schools that are actually, in theory, adjunct faculties for this institution, should they also be subject to the same way of measuring such as learning outcomes, quality of teaching, and so forth?
Yes, yes, and yes. I've lived that. I call it dual credit, concurrent enrollment. It is a college, I'm going on record, it's a college level class. If you delivered at the high school, it doesn't matter. It's a college level class, college level student learning outcomes. Absolutely non-negotiable.
So who's responsible that happens, that actually takes place?
So in other words, that faculty member should be reporting and using the accepted syllabus. Those learning outcomes should be reported to that chair, to that dean, absolutely. Should that person be evaluated for that class? Yes. That's an administrative duty probably, because I'm going on record. I've lived through this at other institutions. I'm a little bit passionate. College level course, college level outcomes, I don't negotiate on that. I've had some that said, well, that's pretty high level. I'd like to take this semester course and run it over a year. No and no. Don't do it. Don't. The students aren't ready, or you can't deliver it, then maybe we'll get someone else, because the faculty member, that adjunct teacher, and you know what? I used to teach high school. I loved it. But a high school teacher has to have the proper credentials. He or she is an adjunct faculty. Would you agree with that? Yes. Okay. Well, an adjunct faculty has to have proper credentials. They have to deliver that class with student learning outcomes. That's the same, that's the same, that's the same. That's delivered. Now, they can deliver it differently. I'm okay with that. Student learning outcomes when they get here better be identical.
My name is Mary Guthrie, and I'm one of the 258 adjuncts on campus. And I've been here about 6 years. My question is this. You notice, I'm sure, I'm the only adjunct in the room.
I'm glad you're here.
How do you, and some adjuncts are ghosts, how do you involve an adjunct in the community college community?
Oh, boy, I wish I had a magic answer. I've been asked that. A couple things I do. Well, first of all, I value adjuncts. I value their time, their energy. They come in, they do a great job, they deliver, they leave. That is kind of the nature of adjuncts. I can live with that. Now, what we also, though, we can give them a little taste, give you a little taste. I don't know, do you do an adjunct orientation here? That brings the body together maybe 2, 3, 4 times a year. Once, okay, well, okay. But maybe we could do multiple. Do they feed you? Well, that's a tough one. You know what? I will say, I won't make it mandatory because we ask so much. But I think we can develop that culture where they say, dang, come on, come on, come on. Now what is mandatory though, okay, is a training session that says, here's how you put in grades. Here's what you do. Here's how. That's a little different than orientation and more. And because what I do want to build is collegiality. So I'm separating orientation from a training session, okay, that has to be done because of the nuts and the bolts. But what you do during that training session is you start to build that collegiality. You say, hey, here's something we offer during the year. Here's some professional development for faculty, full-time adjunct. I'm grateful. I think it's great that you're here. I wish we had more, but that shows that is the nature of it. But I think we need to build that collegiality with adjunct faculty. I don't know if adjunct faculty are eligible for faculty senate status. I don't know. That's great. I fully support that and applaud that. I've worked with adjuncts for a long, long time. It is a battle to get them here and to get them engaged. We've tried some things. It has been effective because we can get them to campus outside of the class. I've found it. It's not perfect, I have to admit. We get them there. You got to feed them. You got to get them involved in the college, get them involved in the community, communicate with that dean. You know, we got to get, they're valuable. My gosh, over 200. That's a bunch of people that provide an incredible, incredible service to our students.
I'm down to 3 questions. All right, but I'll just pick one. 3 left. You actually just now referred to accepted syllabus. Speaking for myself, in my department, we don't do that.
Okay.
There's no accepted syllabus. And so to give a practical example, I teach composition. There are many sections of composition.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking for myself, only for myself, I know that I can get away with doing whatever I want in that class. What are your thoughts on that? And how might you rectify that situation? Because I know that myself and my colleagues, we do take it upon ourselves to work hard, and we care about teaching well, but I also know that I don't know what's happening in my colleagues' classrooms. So what do you think?
I think you get together. No, I would say get together. You have to have consensus. You have to have an agreement in composition. Whatever composition, you're talking about the same composition class. You have to have agreement on, here's the learning outcomes for composition. Okay, and I don't know if you're there yet. I don't know. I think that is critical, and it has to be. Because if I'm sitting in my best friend's in your class, I'm over here in another class with another faculty member, and we start talking, I'll say, well, yeah, we did this, and we did this. I was like, man, I didn't do anything. Do you have any writing exercises? No. Watch some videos. I think, first of all, I think that's shameful. And I'll tell you what, students always want the easy way, but I'll tell you, if I'm that student, I'm going to go, man, I got the short end of the stick. Think of quality. Now, and you know what? Students know. They know, right? They know. Do their parents know? The community, they're going to go, ooh. And that's what ends up over here on the blog. Take Dr. Ekstrom's comp class. Piece of cake. You won't learn anything, but you'll get an A, which irritates the heck out of you, which irritates the heck out of all faculty. So I'm going to go on record. You have to come up with the learning outcomes for the class. You have to start there. You got to start there. If I left a chemistry class and someone said, well, you know, what is H2O? I don't know. We never went over it. Well, put that together on the periodic chart. What? You have, I'm going on record, you have to have identical student learning outcomes from class to class. That's where it has to start. Now, you might deliver it, you might stand up on a chair, do a backflip, and I might be more stoic, but you have to have the same student learning outcomes. If it's not happening, I'll lead the charge
So I have
on
a follow-up to that.
that.
Whose job is it to make sure that that happens?
Ultimately, mine. I'm responsible for, now I mean, it falls on the faculty. I got to be accountable. I can't sit out there at the Kiwanis Club and go, yeah, oh, I guarantee we do this. And if I can't do that, I'm ultimately responsible. You are accountable for it. I'm responsible for it. Because shame on me if I let it go. Shame on me and shame on the college. Now that's where the president should fire me at the end of 12 months. Like, what's going on here? Oh, yeah, we had this huge discussion. I said, wasn't worth my time. Just do it. Shame on me. Similar, identical student learning outcomes. You have to start there. There's 100 different ways to get there. I've taught 100 different ways. Student learning outcomes. Isn't that what we're all about?
All right, we're out of time, and Dr. Ekstrom has to get to see President's Cabinet now, so we got to let him go. I want to thank you for the time and appreciate it, and thanks a lot.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.